This final part will talk about how Indestructible and Protection would work against something with Double Strike, Death Touch, and Trample. Indestructible means that permanent can't be destroyed, and they ignore any checks for lethal damage. I think the thing that confuses people the most is that since it's indestructible, it can't be destroyed, and if it can't be destroyed, it can't be assigned lethal damage. When that's not really the case. It can still be assigned lethal damage, it's just that when we check to see if it has lethal damage, it just ignores it. And all that the glossary defines as lethal damage is an amount of damage greater than or equal to the creature's toughness. But Death Touch says that any amount of damage is lethal damage, so we can just pretend that one damage is equal to their toughness. So if a creature with Double Strike, Death Touch, and Trample were blocked by a creature with Indestructible, well, with Death Touch, all we have to do is assign one damage to be considered lethal, which even though this is indestructible, it can still be assigned lethal damage. And then any leftover damage is excess damage, and that can go to the face. And with Double Strike, we're dealing this in the first combat damage step, and then the second combat damage step. Since this is already marked with damage equal to its toughness, it's marked with lethal damage. So we don't have to assign any more damage to that blocker, we can just throw the rest of the damage to the face. Now if the blocker had more defense, then we would have to assign lethal damage both times, because Death Touch is only lethal at the time it's being dealt. After that, it's just marked damage. Now Prevention is going to go pretty similarly, except that you're going to have to assign lethal to it every time, because part of Protection prevents it from being dealt damage from sources it has protection from. But keep in mind that it prevents damage dealt and not damage assigned. So one damage would still be considered lethal despite whatever that creature's toughness is. When we go to deal the damage, it's prevented and this won't have any damage marked on it. So for the second combat damage, we have to assign damage again. But each time it's been assigned lethal damage, any excess would trample through. Protection doesn't just soak up all the damage.